All right. Wonderful. So, hey everyone, welcome to another exciting founder AMA today. Today I'm joined by Amit Agarwal. Amit is the founder and CEO of NoBroker. NoBroker is India's largest prop tech startup and the first Indian prop tech unicorn. Amit has had an incredibly inspiring journey. I think both in terms of the way that he started, the time at which he started, and the way that he's built his business. So, first of all, Amit, very excited to host you, right? I'll quickly, maybe get started on a more personal note. So, your journey has been quite different. So, from IIT and IIM, at least for me, that's exactly what my parents would want from me. Going to an IIT and going to an IIM, and then leaving, a very successful career in corporate to startup. That's exactly what my parents wouldn't want me to do. So maybe talk us through the journey that you've had leading up to NoBroker, where you got the idea from, and the initial days of NoBroker, perhaps, to get started.
Sure. So just also to set a context in terms of whether I have had any experience, I would say I have zero experience in real estate before we started NoBroker. I am a first generation entrepreneur, so nobody in my family has done a business, so I have no benefit or any experience of it. And perhaps to many of the people who come with a similar background, they can they can take comfort from the fact that neither do you need to be from a metro. I am basically from a small town in UP. So middle class family, focus on education, no background, no knowledge about the industry that I started with. And it is not that basically I had some idea as to what is it that I would want to do in terms of professional career. Just like many of BITS Plani or any other students who are part of this session, I would say that the objective was कि engineering कर लो, फिर जहाँ job अच्छी ज़्यादा पैसे की लगेगी वो job ले लेंगे, फिर देखा जाएगा. And just like any student, you would basically try to give those exams or chase those things which are more lucrative or which are more difficult. So after IIT, I am basically made sense that way. And after that, I was not sure what I want to do. So I, just like any other student, I chased the higher paying jobs. But when I reflect back, you discover what you like over the years. It is not that you graduate and you discover what you like. And hence, I remember the pressure that I used to feel during day zero, day one job interviews after engineering or after MBA. And when I look back, I think those are little useless because everybody is focusing on that. So that day, that month, that becomes a very important thing. But later, the same companies come in hordes. When in lateral, they are very happy to take you. They are very happy to take people from different backgrounds. They don't have a budget of 5 people, just like when they come to campus. So pursuing with that. And then when I left my job at that point of time, I was working with ANZ Bank, which was paying very well. It was a foreign bank. But I felt that I have settled into a comfort zone in which I'm just chasing from one job to another job, and I should take some risk. So that's how it happened.
Wonderful. So very exciting, to hear sort of your initial days. And I think, back when you started NoBroker, a lot of founders at that time were probably a lot younger than you were, So maybe take us through the process of, like, how you decided you wanted to take that leap of faith, and how you, had such strong conviction in the idea that you decided to leave everything to start up.
So see, many of these things basically become stories without any scientific evidence. For example, there are stories as to how people have left college and dropped and started something in garage. I think it's all just a matter of chance and stories. There are stories either way. There are stories of 15-year-olds starting something. There are stories of 60-year-olds starting something. So there is no rule, there is no regulation. As long as you are enthused about an idea, I think one should just go ahead and do it. When I started, I was in mid-30s, which traditionally is not a great time to start something of your own, mainly because of two things. One, that generally people start earlier. And second is that you end up accumulating a lot of home loan EMIs, and you have a kid and education and so on, and expenses, car loan, etc. And hence it becomes much more difficult. But I basically felt that the way in which I tricked myself was that even if I basically leave my job and chase a startup for 2 years, still it will be, even at 35, you still have 25 years left theoretically, still it is less than 10%. So I said, forget about the fact that 2 years will be lost. Think about the fact that it is only 10%. And still 90% is remaining. So I think this was a way in which I tricked myself into believing that there's still a lot of time and you can still catch up. In fact, when I left my job at that point of time, which was 8-9 years back, leaving job and doing a startup was not considered a good experience. So had I joined back, then people would not have considered those 2 years as a experience. But today, it is not only considered an experience, but it's considered as a very good experience. It is considered very positive. So a failed entrepreneur today has a very, very high value compared to working for 1 or 2 years in a normal job, which is not there earlier, which is, so now is a very good scene.
Got it. So, maybe talk us through those 2 years, like I'm sure even in that journey, you would have had a lot of doubts as a founder when you're starting up. So at what point did you realize ki, okay, like, everything that I've done in these 2 years makes sense and I want to sort of commit to this going ahead as well. So what was the stage at which you kind of had that realization?
So one thing is that as a founder, you are always anxious, you are always insecure, you are always worried, and you're always very optimistic and you always want to basically put up a lot of fights. So there are always two conflicting thoughts of optimism and fear, which goes into every founder's mind. So in case people in your accelerator program, they go through these feelings, these are very natural feelings. In fact, I must admit that after a couple of months when lots of investors said no to us, तो जो भी IIT IIM की जितनी भी हवा थी वो सब हवा निकल गई क्योंकि कोई फर्क नहीं, तुम कितने बड़े IIT IIM के हो, नहीं दे रहे फंडिंग तुम्हें, जो करना है कर लो. So then basically you submit more towards the fact that things you can, there are only some things which you can control, and rest you just need to keep on putting up fight and hope for the best. So basically the only thing which was in, so my journey had been that I left my job. A lot of people said, great, hope we wish we had this much of courage. And then I was all alone, right? Then me and my two co-founders, that's it. Everybody else is busy with their lives. And the life of a co-founder, especially in the phase where you are struggling with capital, is very tough. Because first of all, you are unsure about your idea. You will find half people praising your idea, half people expressing doubt over your idea. And every investor who says no dents your confidence a little bit. But I think the only thing which we basically kept on doing was asking customers, kept on talking to lots of customers, asking them whether this idea made sense or not. So everybody said, no broker, nobody has done in the world. Everybody works with brokers, be it US or be it China. So how come this idea will work? I said, we don't know. The only thing that we know is, as an Indian customer, I want to avoid a real estate broker. They were like, अरे इतने स्मार्ट हो तुम, तो बाकी किसी ने क्यों नहीं कर लिया पहले? हो सकता है भाई करना चाहिए था, हमें नहीं पता. But I don't like a real estate broker typically. So the point which I basically want to make is that you, as a founder, you might think that some other founder is in a good position because he's from a good college, but it's not true. You look at Vijay Shekhar Sharma, who is one of India's most successful entrepreneur. He's not from any IIT IIM, and he's a good friend of mine. He's invested also in NoBroker. I mean, so there is no correlation between successful founder and its pedigree. There is no correlation between you having any family background. There is no correlation in your age. I think the only thing which basically matters is your perseverance and customers liking your idea. If customers like your idea, sooner or later, investors will also like it. And other things, people will also like it. So most of my friends said this will not work. The reason is because there is no precedence. And if you are pursuing an idea, most probably it is going to be either a new idea or an idea with a twist, which has never been done before. So you can't hope for people saying that this is a good idea in unison. सबको ही भरोसा होता है किसी ने कर ही लिया होता ना. तो problem यही आती है कि how to believe whether my idea is good or not. And the answer is ask customers. Will they pay for it? Yeah.
Got it. So very interesting. I think I want to double click into a couple of places here, but let's start with your thesis on, whether the customers like it. Generally, a good indicator of disruption is also finding out who doesn't like your product, which is your competitors. And I think NoBroker specifically has had, to me, it's been one of the most inspiring, also one of the craziest stories that I've seen in terms of figuring out when you've hit PMF. So maybe if you could tap into, that story from your early days where your competitors were literally at your doorstep. Maybe you could tell us how that experience shaped you and how that experience tested you as a founder.
So that was something when we basically started our office, and we were in Bangalore. And generally, what I have heard is that Bangalore is extremely startup friendly, but suddenly we had to save money. We had taken a house instead of a corporate office, and there were a group of 70, 80 people who stood outside our office, and we're puzzled as to what is it going on. Suddenly we discovered that those guys are local brokers and many goons mixed with them. And what they wanted was to basically break stuff, beat our employees so that NoBroker closes down. They don't have a concept of cloud, right? That if you break laptop, we'll buy another one and we can shift office and start. But their intention was to basically scare. And that basically, thankfully, we had an iron grill door and so they slapped many employees and female employees started crying. Thankfully, we had an iron grill door, which we closed, and the situation, we called police, but didn't get much of help. And finally, over the next few days, we had to vacate the office almost overnight because they were chasing female employees in the late evening. They were damaging the bikes outside. Even when we basically left, they chased the vehicle carrying laptops to figure out as to where we are going next. So it was pretty crazy. And that also in a startup friendly city like Bangalore was astonishing. But and the customer service and the website suffered because of this. But I think over the years, when I look in hindsight, it made the team stronger. It made many people feel that perhaps we are doing something right. That's why brokers are upset. So in the hindsight, looks good. But yes, that point of time, it was pretty tough.
Got it. So no, this has actually been one of my favorite stories to hear this, right? And I think Dave has actually asked the next question that I wanted to. So let's jump into the sort of fundraise journey, right? And you said that you were rejected by so many investors before you actually managed to raise your first round. So what was your approach going into it, and what do you think was the sort of decision point where the nth investor was convinced that it makes sense to take a gamble on NoBroker? What do you think were the factors leading up to that?
Yeah, so 2, 3 practical things quickly. One is whenever you write an email to investor, write a very short mail. I know that you love your business and you want to write a lot, but write an extremely short email because nowadays people read email over phone. The longer it is, the lower the chances that anybody will read it. Just write about 5 things. One line, what is the problem that you are solving? One line about the solution that you are with which you are solving the problem. One line on the traction that you've achieved. One line on the market size, and one line about the founder's pedigree. That's it. Just 5 lines and ask for a meeting. Never attach a PPT because then it is showing too much of information. And buy a mail track sort of software which tracks whether the email was read or it is still lying unread. So this is a practical approach, which we did. We wrote a lot of cold call emails, although referral works better than cold call, but we did everything. Once you land up with an investor, there's a layer. You first of all talk to an investment analyst, then someone senior, then VP, principal, and then partner. Treat every layer with respect, no matter how stupid the guy is or how junior the person is, because he's a gatekeeper. He needs to be respected. Note down the questions. As soon as you come out from the meeting, immediately, the moment you're out of the room, immediately type all the questions that have been asked and mull over those questions once you're out of the meeting, so that in the next meeting, you are better prepared. So in a way, in your mind, you should have a diary of questions that people have asked. Many questions do not have any objective available answer. Search for those answers. For example, somebody asks us, how big is the market size? So there's no report which says how much brokers in India charge cumulatively, how many crores of brokers are brokers charging, right? So then we did a research. We went to government side. We figured out from census how many homes are there. We split in cities. We had made some assumption about transactions, about brokerage, and we made a report, made an Excel sheet. So next time somebody asks us, what's the market size? We told this the market size. So you have to appreciate it that investor is asking some question and he needs those answers because he needs to present it in his investment committee. So if you don't have the answers, you can't say कि नहीं भाई किसी को पता नहीं है market size approximately इतना होगा. भाई उसको अपने present करना है ना, तो आप help करो उसकी. आप बनाओ, आप study करो, आप assumption लो, आप data search करो. अगली बार आप report बना के लेके जाओ कि साहब ये होने वाला है. if something is as subjective as, for example, somebody asked us as to what is the average duration for which a person stays in a house? Who has the answer? Can you give the answer for entire country? You can't. What is the next best thing that you can do? So we called 200 customers on our own website, asked them as to how much time you stayed in your previous house, noted down that data, showed that data. It's a study, but it's a random study, independent data. And this is the broad range that has come out. So next time that guy also has an answer. Figure out the answer. For one question, we went to a mall and asked 100 random people. So help the investor answer those questions, mull over the questions so you are better prepared. And the second part is dealing with the rejection. So it's very difficult even today after 9 years. When investors say no to us, it's not easy, but you need to get used to it. You have to have a fake persona in the sense that even if you are feeling down in a meeting, you need to pretend that you are enthused, because he is betting money on you. Unless he can see you enthused, why will he back you? So that bit of perseverance you need to do. You need to keep on showing that you believe this idea, you are excited, things are going great. So that salesmanship you have to have.
Got it. So no question is a bad question. Don't lose hope and keep your ear to the ground and keep listening, I think, are the three biggest learnings from here. Let's maybe talk about a little bit about the journey that you had before you raised a round, right? So a lot of founders here are probably also currently bootstrapped and looking to raise their first round. So how did you go about sort of managing all your expenses? How do you go about running a business when in the early days before raising a round? And how did that change after you raised your first round?
So it's extremely important to be very, very stingy. And before you join the startup, basically chase, it's extremely important to borrow money, save money either from your parents, family, whatever, but have a war chest so that you know that you can sustain it for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, so that you are not concerned every day as to how much money is basically getting out. So we basically, in my mind, I had money for 1.5 years. We never opened any office. All of us worked from home. I think it may not be also a bad idea to have a job and work in weekends or late nights in case you are facing any financial trouble. So it's perfectly okay to take a step back, join a job, and then do it in parallel. I ended up doing it full time, but that's just by chance. And for we needed some employees. What I did was at that point of time when work from home was not that popular, even at that 8-9 years back also, I hired some talented women who were housewives, who had earlier careers but now married, kids, housewives, and their kids used to go to school. And in those hours, they basically used to work for NoBroker, and I used to pay them from my own savings account. So do anything and everything which basically saves money, which elongates your runway, and don't make the problem very big. So don't take lots of cities, lots of areas. Take a very small niche. You just need to prove that niche is working, and you can always get money and scale it faster. So don't take the entire country, don't take the entire city. You can just take one locality. That's fine. Prove the concept first.
Got it. Perfect. And I think the last sort of question that we have from our prepared questions, right, is if you could go back to Amit, back when he started NoBroker, what advice would you give to him given the perspective that you have now?
Before that, I'll just add to the previous thing also, saying that, see, I have been to the bootstrapping stage. It's a very difficult stage. So everybody who is in this call or who is being streamed to or listening, I must tell you, it's a very difficult stage. Bootstrapping is extremely difficult. Why? Because you are unsure what basically holds the future. But as a founder, that's what you have got to be used to. Top founders in the country, even they don't know what's going to happen next year. So if you ask me what's going to be our revenue next year, I have no idea. You can only try. So one is this. Second is that I have seen this bad habit among the startup founders in bootstrapping stage. They meet anybody and everybody and they start sharing their idea and ask them for advice. कि ठीक लग रहा है idea कि नहीं, ठीक लग रहा है कि नहीं. For example, I can imagine that in this call also 2 people are going to tell me कि अमित हमारा ये idea आपको क्या लगता है? मत करो ऐसा. Don't share your ideas with so many people. I'm not saying for the thing of secrecy. वो बात नहीं है. बात ये है that when you share your ideas and ask for opinion, you are unnecessarily getting subjected to possible negative energy. यार नहीं पता किसी को भी कि कौन सा आइडिया चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, किसी को नहीं पता है. तुमको मैक्सिमम पता है बिकॉज तुम उस धंधे में लगे हुए हो, तुम कस्टमर से बात कर रहे हो। तुम्हें ना केवल, अगर तुम्हें अपना आइडिया चेक करना तो केवल कस्टमर से चेक करो या इन्वेस्टर से चेक करो। हमें तो सारे इन्वेस्टर्स ने ना ही बोला था, हमें सब इन्वेस्टर ने कहा था आइडिया बेकार है। मेरे ज्यादातर दोस्तों ने कहा था आइडिया बेकार है। द पर्सन हु वाज माय whom I used to look up to and who I consider the most intelligent person, he said नहीं यार ये आइडिया नहीं चलेगा। तो what you need in this space is people who will support you, जो बोलेंगे हाँ यार तुम करो चलेगा। तो you need those friends. Don't talk about a startup idea with the friends who are non-believers. ये स्टेज एनीवे बहुत डिफिकल्ट है। बार बार 10 लोगों से पूछोगे चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, तुम एनीवे और डिफिकल्ट बना दोगे स्टेज, और डाउट आ जाएगा। कस्टमर से पूछो ना चलेगा नहीं चलेगा आइडिया। हम मुझसे क्या पूछ रहे हो? मैं इस कॉल में आया, मुझे से 10 फाउंडर, और जस्ट बिकॉज आई एम slightly successful doesn't mean that I have the idea about your business, your niche, your customer base. How can I have that idea? So don't give me that privilege. Don't give anybody that privilege. So that's my answer to the second thing also, that if there was any advice that I could give to my past was, don't share your idea with too much people. Your spouse, your close friends who believe in you, who will lend you money, who will support you no matter what, you just need to be with them. वैसी बहुत नेगेटिविटी और फियर है स्टेज में, और बढ़ाने की जरूरत नहीं है।
Perfect. So I think to all of the bootstrap founders that are in this call, don't lose hope. You may also be on the category creating path that NoBroker took before they became a unicorn startup. So I think it's been incredible, Amit, to have all of these insights. I now quickly want to pass the baton on to our founders who are probably very excited to ask you some questions. I do see some questions in the chat. To all the founders that are in the meeting, you can also raise your hands virtually and we'll recognize you. But since I see Dev's question in the chat, Dev, maybe you can get started with your question.
And Akshit, we can go till 12:30 in case there are questions. I have next meeting which is pushed.
Sure. All right.
Yeah, hi. Basically, hi Amit. This is Dev here from EV5. We do deliveries to electric vehicles. So my question was to viewers: what is your take on equity to debt ratio while raising funds, and also which is the right time to opt for debt? Because I personally come from a very conventional business background. So debt is something that we don't really look forward to, because again, एक pressure रहता है sir, PR वापस करना and all that. But then again, equity is also very expensive. When you're maybe on the second or the third round, you realize that equity is also super expensive. So what is your take on that? What was your strategy, or when you got an option of debt as well, maybe? So what's your take on it?
See, debt is fine as long as it does not creep into your personal liability. If your company is taking a debt, and if documents are very clear that if company fails, if you bound up that company, debt is gone, then I'm fine. But I don't want to, anyway, as a startup, I'm taking risk with my salary and with my time. I don't want to take a risk that comes to my home, my family. So we have been extremely negative with respect to debt. So we never took any debt. We were okay that we go bankrupt because we run out of money. But debt was something that we never took. Anyway, as a service business, we had nothing to hypothecate. तो हमारी कोई प्लांट की फैक्ट्री तो है नहीं, तो हमें तो यार हमें डेट नहीं लेना। आपको भरोसा है तो हम इक्विटी दो, वरना कोई बात नहीं, हम कहीं और ढूंढेंगे। तो it comes to personal, my advice, I have never been a fan of debt given this type of business. Had I had a plant, had I had something tangible, then I would have said ठीक है इसको hypothecate कर लो, कल को नहीं होता आप इसको उठा के ले जाना। पर ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि आप मेरे घर के अंदर आ जाओ, तो वो नहीं होना चाहिए। That is basically putting too many eggs into the basket and gives a huge amount of psychological pressure also unnecessarily. तो मेरा तो उसमें स्टैंड है यार।
Great, perfect. Thanks for that, Amit. Thanks, Dev, for that question. We'll quickly go to Aditya first, and Vaibhav, then we'll come to you. So Aditya, you have the floor.
Hey, Amit. So one question that I had is, you had said that, prove the model a little bit before you reach out to investors, because obviously they also need to see the proof of the pudding. How much proving did you have to do, and what level is the threshold of proving? कि इतना करोगे तो ठीक है, चलो prove हो गया यहाँ पे. Because there will always be multiple variables that we'll need to keep proving upon, right? And consistency in terms of recurring run rate and all those things, right? So what are the key parameters that we need to look upon?
यार देखो, ट्रुथ क्या है ना, that this investment thing is more about feeling.
Yeah.
Greed and fear. So investor na, when he is extreme, when you present to him and when he is clear कि यार चलेगा नहीं, then it's a fear. Then he's sure कि इसको ना बोलना है. When it is very exciting, when he feels the feeling that we are after is कि बॉस इतनी बढ़िया चीजें निकल जाएगी तुमसे, 10 लोग और खड़े डालने के लिए पैसा. So even if you don't have a list of investors, you need to show कि मैं बहुत लोगों से बात कर रहा हूँ, बहुत of interest है. वरना नहीं, बीच की स्टेज है, और दिखाओ.
Right.
कहने में जाता है ऐसा करना, वो नंबर लेके आना, फिर दिखाओ. अबे कैसे दिखाएं? पैसे तो है नहीं, पैसे दोगे तब दिखाएंगे. हम ही लगाते रहे अपने पैसे, तुम भी तो लगाओ कुछ. तो ये और दिखाओ वाली स्टेज में मत फंसो तुम. Whenever an investor says कि तुम और दिखाओ, the thing is your pitch is not that good. That is the truth. Or there are some questions that you have not been able to answer. So I am telling you, this or dikhao, or do this and then come back to us, is a traditional way for investors to say that I am not getting the greed feeling. You go and do more work and then give me that feeling.
Right.
So I would say that perhaps sometimes we are much more logical, and as a startup founder, we think that this matter is important. I'll give an example. In my mind, we were doing couple of so in our mind, the objective was that we need to reach to 100 property listing per day. और हम वहां पहुंच गए ना, तो फिर एकदम बढ़िया हो जाएगा. क्यों है? लग गया हमको ऐसा, हमें लगा ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. गए हम इस इन्वेस्टर से बात कर रहे थे, हमने बोला कि मैं उसे बताया बहुत खुश होकर कि अब इंपॉर्टेंट माइलस्टोन अब हो जाएगी फंडिंग. मैं बोला वी हैव रीच्ड 100 प्रॉपर्टी लिस्टिंग्स. तो ही सेड अच्छा पर मंथ? आई सेड नहीं, पर डे. डे बड़ा होता है कि पर मंथ बड़ा होता है? नो आइडिया मैन. अगर मैं 100 पर मंथ भी कॉन्फिडेंस से बोलता अरे वाह बहुत बोल लिया तुमने, तो उसको कोई आइडिया नहीं है तुम्हारे निश का. सो इफ यू से टू हिम दैट आई हैव क्रैक्ड इट and this number is amazing, he will believe it, because if you are saying it with conviction. But अगर तुम ही डाउट में बोल रहे हो तो उसको भी डाउट है.
Got it.
So my answer to this is I have spoken to many founders who say यार ये नंबर अचीव कर लें फिर जाएंगे बात करेंगे. But as a series A funding or as a pre-series A funding, your numbers actually don't matter much, because it is expected कि वो नंबर ज्यादा होंगे नहीं.
Right.
What is basically mattering much more is your idea, market size. So market size is something which I would focus much more on. See, what do you want to, suppose you have money and I come up with a startup idea right now in this meeting. What do I need to convince you? I need to convince you that this idea has huge size. I am the right person to solve this idea. मालूम मेरे पास कुछ प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं, कुछ नहीं, केवल आइडिया है. मुझे तो केवल आइडिया पिच करना है, एक चीज नहीं करी मैंने. लेकिन अगर मैं तुम्हें कन्विंस कर दूं इसी कॉल में कि साहब मार्केट साइज इज लार्ज, आई एम द राइट पर्सन, आई हैव द राइट स्किल्स, आई हैव द राइट सॉल्यूशन टू क्रैक इट. Nobody else is doing it right now. Lot of interest is behind me, and I'm going to get booked very fast. Are you interested? You'll say, "यार 10 पैसा मेरा ही मान ले, 100 में से इतना मेरा ही मान ले." मतलब because you have got this feeling कि मिस ना हो जाए मुझसे. So I'm not sure whether I'm answering the right question or not. But if I understood your question not, but I am saying ये और दिखाओ ना, इसमें मत फंसो यार, because if you're doing 10 unit a day, even if you come 15 unit a day, the answer will be same. Or dikhao, because he's still not feeling that greed.
Correct. No, you're right. Absolutely. In fact, the first company that I started was an online art marketplace, and people didn't understand ये art online कैसे दिखेगा, right? And वहाँ पे बहुत सारा ये और दिखाओ चल रहा था. And ultimately we said, "Chal chuck it here. Let's make it a lifestyle business." And today it's a $10 million company. Now, in terms of revenues. Right. Wow. So, but now the problem is I have now completely disassociated with the company. My wife runs that. Now we are not in a phase to raise money for that. It might become big, might not, but अच्छे हैं, खुश हैं हम वहाँ पे. Right. So now in this second company, I don't want to make the same mistake. Do not want to decide in my mind, यार ये investor से कौन झेलेगा, चल भाड़ में गए, हम अपना खुद का business बना लेते हैं. While there is a good opportunity for it to really scale and become really big in its space.
नहीं, लेकिन now it is different. Now when you approach an investor and when you talk about 10 million, now he will treat you different.
हाँ, correct.
अब different हो, क्योंकि अब तुमने अपना track record prove कर दिया है. And you can make the statement to him also कि यार मैं sure नहीं हूँ इसको बनाऊं, तुमसे पैसा लूं भी कि नहीं लूं. You should say this to him on his face. That पर मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि ना ये बहुत large बच जाएगी अगर तुमसे पैसा ले लूंगा, पर I am not sure. I am just discussing with you because it's an idea I am working on.
Right.
वो बहुत investor को बहुत पसंद है ये बात कि सामने वाला पैसा शायद ना ले.
हाँ, correct. Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Play hard to get is
Yeah.
another interesting
Yeah.
learning I think that we've gotten from this session. But no, great. Thanks a lot for that question, Aditya. We'll quickly move to Vaibhav. Vaibhav, you can turn on your camera and ask the question.
Yeah, hi Amit.
Hi.
So just to add on to the same investment only piece. So we've also been rejected by a lot of investors, but when you don't actually need money, you get the maximum commitments. We initially wanted to raise 3 crores, but then we've raised close to 7 crores. Like you get a few commitments and where like people realize the potential and फिर वो बढ़ता चला जाता है. So my question is like Navgati, in my startup Navgati, we are trying to build India's first fuel aggregator. And we do congestion and compliance monitoring for fuel companies, which a sector which is primarily PSU dominated, right? So we're working with some of the gas companies at present. But abhi jaise in case of NoBroker, you have a subscription model in place. So how did you actually start with the pricing aspect of it? Like jaise hamare case mein, the companies that we're working with are so large that they can actually command a price ke is rate pe hoga ye wali cheez, and you can't afford to lose that big order. So when you don't have a competition to benchmark your pricing against, how do you actually come up with like a pricing strategy? What were your initial thoughts?
तो यार मेरा इनिशियल थॉट तो यार ये है कि यू बेसिकली start with something which is acceptable to customer. It's okay to start with low number as long as you are not getting tied up with a long term contract. क्योंकि शुरुआत में ना आपको ट्रैक्शन चाहिए, तो शुरुआत में हमने ना बहुत सस्ते पे लॉन्च किया 999 रुपीस पे, थिंकिंग कि यार एक ब्रोकर को 15-20 हजार रुपए लेता है, हम 1000 रुपए लेंगे तो दे देगा कस्टमर. फिर भी कस्टमर ने नहीं दिया, बिकॉज हमारा केस डिफिकल्ट है, बिकॉज customers always pay post the work is done. We were and we are trying to charge a customer before the work gets done, because we are not a goon. We can't catch a caller and take the money later once the work is done. We can't go on street. तो हमें तो ऑनलाइन पैसा पहले चाहिए. तो अगर तुम मुझसे पूछो तो the way in which we did was we started with something low, we tested the waters, then we increased the amount, then we heard the phone calls and customer as to why they are not taking it. So I'll just tell you our journey, and I'm not sure how to, you are best just as to how to basically apply it to your business, because yours sounds to be more to a B2B business. लेकिन मैं अपना बताता हूँ experience, and then you can draw the lesson from there. So because we could change the price whenever we wanted on the platform, so it was easier for us. The contracts that we got into with the customer was for 1 month, so there was no long-term commitment, so that was the comfort. We started with charging 999, which seemed low to us, but customers did not like it because they were used to paying after, not pre. Still we went on and we listened to customers. Many customers said कि काम हो जाए तब दे देंगे. तो हमने बोला अच्छा ठीक है, तो मनी बैक कर लेते हैं कि अभी दे दो, हम रिफंड कर देंगे, क्योंकि देखो हम आपके घर जाके ले सकते, तो उल्टा कर लेते हैं, आप काम नहीं होगा तो हम रिफंड कर देंगे. तो हमने एक नया प्लान इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया. फिर किसी ने बोला कि नहीं मुझे तो ना एक फोन रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर भी चाहिए. तो हमने कहा अच्छा ठीक है, हम एक फोन रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर वाला नया प्लान कर देते हैं. तो हमने नए फिर किसने बोला कि सब तो ठीक है, लेकिन मेरी चाबी किस्त को होल्ड करना चाहिए बिकॉज मैं NRI हूँ. हमने कहा ठीक है, वी विल हैव अ फील्ड रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर प्लान आल्सो. सो we kept on changing plans, adding to plans based upon customer rebuttals. Whatever customer said नहीं मेरे लिए मैं नहीं लूंगा, क्यों नहीं लोगे भाई आप, नहीं मुझे ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं होगी, अच्छा ठीक है ये कर देते हैं, नया प्लान लगा देते हैं. किसने कहा रेंटल एग्रीमेंट कराए बिना तो मैं नहीं लूंगा, ठीक है रेंटल एग्रीमेंट के साथ ऐड कर देते हैं. फिर हमें लगा कि यार सब कस्टमर सेम नहीं है, किसी की एबिलिटी 1000 रुपए की है, किसी की 20,000 रुपए की है. तो हमने फिर डिफरेंट प्लान्स बना दिए कि महंगे घर का महंगा प्लान, सस्ते घर का सस्ता प्लान. एंड वी केप्ट ऑन आइटरेटिंग, वी केप्ट ऑन, हम क्या करते थे कई पैसे थोड़े इंक्रीज कर दिए और देखा क्या क्या रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है, थोड़ा वेट किया और वेट कर लिया, 1-8 महीने देख लिया, वर्कआउट नहीं किया तो रोल बैक किया, वरना हिम्मत रखी. सो आर summary is experimenting, lots of experimenting, changing, never getting tied up with a long-term contract, and listening to customer rebuttals and coming up with innovative plans based on that.
So इसके केस में सी like this makes sense like in your case because of like property की size के हिसाब से और like rental agreement के हिसाब से आप add करते गए. B2B के केस में it is like different, like एक client के पास potentially करोड़ों का order देने की power है. So like Navgati is a B2B2C player. So B2B वाला angle है कि oil and gas company से we charge a like subscription fee. Then we also have a consumer facing offering, जिसमें like close to 20,000 people are using it on a daily basis, million downloads on the app. तो अभी we are helping users navigate to a station with the lowest waiting time. CNG pump से line लगी रहती है सबसे lowest waiting time पे. But क्या है कि आम जनता को किसी ऐप के लिए पैसे देने की आदत नहीं है. तो how does that come in? Like अभी क्या है कि we have ways of monetizing on the business side of things. Even मैं listing जैसे Zomato के केस में I can do it कि रेस्टोरेंट लिस्ट करेगा तो उसमें कमीशन ले सकता हूँ. सिमिलरली स्टेशन लिस्ट कर रहा हूँ उसमें कमीशन ले सकता हूँ. बट हाउ डू यू सजेस्ट कि कंज्यूमर से पैसा निकालना स्टार्ट करें? बिकॉज दैट इज वेयर द वॉल्यूम विल कम इन.
देखो हमारे केस के अंदर कस्टमर पैसे देता था पर ब्रोकर को ज्यादा देता था, हमने कम मांगे. जहां कस्टमर देता ही नहीं ना वहां मुश्किल है थोड़ा. तो मेरे को फिगर आउट करना पड़ेगा, या तो तुम उसे दिखाओ ये प्रॉब्लम. फॉर एग्जांपल कार में ना, कार बाइंग सेलिंग में कस्टमर ब्रोकरेज देता है पर अपनी जेब से नहीं देता. ब्रोकर वो कमा लेता है प्राइस डिफरेंस में, उसे दिखता नहीं है. तो वहां पर जिसने भी नॉन ब्रोकरेज ट्राई किया चला नहीं, बिकॉज कस्टमर को वैसे ही ब्रोकरेज दिखता नहीं है. तो तुमको ये फिगर आउट करना है कि कस्टमर को या तो तुम पैसे दिखाओ कि सब आपके लूज हो रहे हैं, मैं बचा रहा हूँ, या तो वो दिखाओ उसको. पर अगर एजुकेशन बहुत ज्यादा एफर्ट लग रहा है तो परहैप्स फिर कुछ और तरीका सोचो, क्योंकि ना कस्टमर को एजुकेट करना मास में बहुत एक्सपेंसिव काम है. सॉरी, लेट मी रिफ्रेज. कस्टमर की पेइंग हैबिट को चेंज करना मास में डिफिकल्ट काम है. तो सोचना पड़ेगा बॉस इसके अंदर कैसे करें.
But like, is it fine if we don't charge the consumers? Like, हम तो और तरीके से we can continue to keep making money.
I was going to say that only कि देखो तुम्हें कस्टमर से अगर B2C पोर्शन में चार्ज करना भी है ना, तो पहले दिन से क्यों करना है, पहले फ्री रखो. तो हमने भी फ्री रखा ना, हमने 1 साल फ्री रखा. पहले कस्टमर को आप आदत तो लगाओ प्रोडक्ट यूज करने की, फिर कर लेना चार्ज, फिर वो दे भी देगा. अभी दोनों चीजें यूज भी करवाना है और चार्ज भी करना है, मे बी डिफिकल्ट. और ऐसा कर लो हमारी तरह फ्रीमियम कर लो, ऑप्शनल कर दो. एक्स चीज के लिए फ्री है, वाई चीज के लिए पेड है. तो
उसमें भी फिर आपने प्राइसिंग वही यूजर से पूछ के किया कि आपके लिए क्या जम रहा है ना?
आइट्रेशन कर करके यार, आइट्रेशन कर करके. इसका ना कोई साइंटिफिक आंसर नहीं है, विच इज फाइन. क्योंकि जो आप कर रहे हो पहले कभी किसी ने नहीं किया था, वो साइंटिफिक आंसर नहीं है. पर कोई बात नहीं, फिगर आउट कर लेंगे ओवर टाइम.
ठीक, थैंक्स.
थैंक यू.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Vaibhav. In case any other founders have any other questions, please feel free to raise your hands.
Can I quickly ask another question?
Sure, Aditya. Yeah.
आपका मोड क्या था? I mean, आज भी वही क्वेश्चन होगा कि आपका सबसे बड़ा मोड क्या है, क्योंकि that's the same question that got asked to me in my art flute in the first company. बिकॉज ऑनलाइन है, कोई भी कर सकता है. आपका आईपी क्या है वहां पे?
उससे पूछो तूने जहां इन्वेस्ट किया उनमें क्या आईपी, उनमें क्या मोड था?
वो तो हमेशा है. वो कोई भी, आई एम अ स्ट्रांग बिलीवर अमित कि कोई भी कुछ भी कर सकता है.
हाँ मैं कह रहा हूँ जिस जो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है ना इन्वेस्टर, उसने जिस कंपनी में डालना उनमें भी किसी का कोई मोड नहीं था. फ्लिपकार्ट का क्या मोड था? क्या मोड था फ्लिपकार्ट का? कुछ मोड नहीं था. तो मोड तो बनता है बॉस, अनलेस आपके पास कोई पेटेंटेड रिसर्च हो, जो कि आई डोंट थिंक एनी इन्वेस्टर उसमें बंदे में डाल रहा है, फार्मा कंपनी में डाल नहीं रहा. तो आई थिंक इसका आंसर ना यार ये है कि मोड मैं ना बना दूंगा और बहुत जल्दी बना दूंगा. एज लॉन्ग एज यू कैन आंसर इट, इट्स फाइन कि मैं ना मोड बना दूंगा, बहुत जल्दी बना दूंगा मोड. और दूसरा इसका आंसर ये है कि इसके अंदर ना 2-3 प्लेयर की जगह है. अगर किसी ने कॉपी कर भी लिया तो भी 2-3 बड़े प्लेयर की जगह है, क्योंकि जोमेटो स्विगी की भी तो जगह है ही ना, उबर ओला की तो जगह है ही. तो आई थिंक तो हमने जो स्टार्ट किया, तो यू आर राइट, ये क्वेश्चन बहुत हमसे पूछा था कि यार इसमें तो housing.com विल आल्सो ओपन वन मोर पोर्टल या वन मोर ड्रॉप डाउन की जगह ओनर ओनली. हमने बोला हर कर तो सकते ही है वो तो कोई डाउट नहीं है. लेकिन सवाल ये है कि इतना ही ज्यादा लोगों को पसंद हो तो कर दिया होता उन लोगों ने. सो देयर इज अ प्रीमियम टुवर्ड्स अ फाउंडर बीइंग पैशनेट टुवर्ड्स इट एंड डूइंग इट. मतलब हमने बोला देखो यार, अगर सबको इतना शौक होता तो लोगों ने कर दिया होता. हमको इसमें पैशन है तो हम पहले करेंगे, और हमें उम्मीद ये है कि हम बड़े हो जाएंगे बिफोर एनीबडी सीज इट कि अरे मिस कर दिया हमने.
राइट.
और टू गुड एक्सटेंट वैसा ही हुआ. जब तक बाकी लोग जागे तब तक हम बड़े हो गए थे।
Correct.
ऐसा नहीं है बहुत जल्दी हमने किया, हमें बहुत साल लग गए, तो हम लोग तब तक भी सोते ही रहे। तो my response to the question is that you say that I will build that moat, and that I will build that moat pretty fast, and there is a moat to be built. जब तक वो कन्विंस है कि हाँ, अगर उनको ये लगा चाहिए कि यार मोट कभी बिल्ड ही नहीं होगी इसमें, उनसे बोला यार मोट है, क्योंकि अरे आर्ट बिजनेस में तो एकदम मोट है यार, एकदम ऑफ कोर्स नेटवर्क इफेक्ट है, मतलब ये तो कहने की बात ही नहीं है, ऑफ कोर्स नेटवर्क इफेक्ट है। इतने बड़े बड़े जो आर्ट के बेसिकली इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वर्ल्ड वाइड, इवन इन ऑक्शन, उनका उनका क्या मोट है? नेटवर्क इफेक्ट ही तो है मोट। फिर ट्रस्ट आ गया, एक बार बड़े हो गए तो ट्रस्ट आ गया, फिर प्रोसेस आ गया,
मोट बन गया,
कर दिया या ऑफ कोर्स।
गॉट, थैंक यू।
Perfect. Any other questions?
So just one more question. So Amit, Vaibhav here. So actually, क्या है कि you would have interacted with a lot of startups. So are there some sectors where a strategic investment makes sense? जैसे like even at an early stage. So strategic investment, even say like a single digit equity percentage in the company, sometimes is frowned upon by the investors because that indicates कि आगे जाके कहीं acquire हो जाएगी company. So what are your thoughts on that like investment?
ये जरूरी नहीं है ऐसा, बहुत बार यू कैन ऑल्सो प्ले इट अप थिंकिंग कि यार इससे तो कंपटीशन नहीं होगा मेरा, ये तो मेरे साथ है। और तुम्हें ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है कि द फैक्ट दैट समबडी कैन एक्वायर यू इज अ नेगेटिव थिंग फॉर इन्वेस्टर? इट्स नॉट नेगेटिव मैन, इट्स नॉट नेगेटिव, दे आल्सो वांट टू सेल। डाल ही क्यों रहे हैं, उनको निकलना है ना। तो ऐसा नहीं है, हो सकता है तुम्हारे मुंह पे बोल रहे हो कि नहीं नहीं ये तो, लेकिन मन में खुश हैं कि कुछ नहीं होगा तो इसको बेच देंगे। तो यू कैन पोर्ट्रेट बोथ वेज। कंपटीशन एक कम हो गया क्योंकि सामने वाले को भरोसा है, कस्टमर ने, कंपटीशन ना हो तो कस्टमर हो, तो एक डेडिकेट मेरा कस्टमर हो गया, एक मेरे कस्टमर ने मेरे में इन्वेस्ट कर दिया, मेरे कंपटीशन ने मेरे में इन्वेस्ट कर दिया। बोथ आर गुड और कैन बी प्लेड एज गुड, and the fact that somebody basically can acquire you in future is also, they may portray to you it is bad, but it is not bad man, at least not for them, maybe bad for us founders but not bad for them। और हमारे लिए बुरा क्यों है? हमसे बिना पैसे तो हमें बिना पैसे दिए हुए थोड़ी हम में से स्टेक ले लेगा। साइन तो हम ही करना है ना।
बट एक्चुअली क्या है कि दोनों तरह के इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, लाइक जैसे हमारे केस में वी टुक मनी फ्रॉम से मैपमा इंडिया एंड नाउ वी टेकिंग मनी फ्रॉम गेल। तो क्या है कि हाँ, गैस अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया वाया द स्टार्टअप प्रोग्राम, तो इट मेक सेंस क्योंकि 80% गैस इज कंट्रोल्ड बाय
गेल। तो बहुत अच्छी न्यूज़ है।
हाँ, तो लाइक अभी इसकी पीआर करेंगे नेक्स्ट मंथ ऑनवर्ड। आई होप कांक्वेस्ट वाले इसको कहीं शेयर नहीं करेंगे, बट राइट। तो दिस वाज द इंटेंट। बट कुछ कंपनीज का क्या है कि कुछ इन्वेस्टर्स जो हमारे ऑलरेडी हैं एंजल, सम आर वेरी हैप्पी। जैसा गेल भी है ना, मैपमा इंडिया भी है, अभी लाइक एक और इन्वेस्टर है जिनसे होना है। तो उनका ये है कि सम हु आर इन्वेस्टिंग से 10 lakhs 15 lakhs एंजल्स, तो देयर फाइन कि अच्छा अच्छा रिटर्न मिल जाएगा। बट सम ऑफ आवर लाइक VC, अर्ली स्टेज VC दैट आर इन्वेस्टेड, उनको ये है कि देन इट सॉर्ट ऑफ कैप्स कि आप कहाँ तक जा सकते हो, क्योंकि somebody who wants to acquire you will not want कि आप उनसे बड़े प्लेयर बनो।
वैभव, तेरा ऑब्जेक्टिव धंधा चलाना है कि इन्वेस्टर्स को खुश करना है? जिसने पैसे दे दिए ना, अब क्या, अब क्या उसको पटा रहा है? दे दिए उसने, अब वो फिगर आउट करे क्या करना है उसे। अब वो तेरी, जिन लोगों ने पैसा दे दिया वो तेरी प्रॉब्लम क्यों है अब?
ये तो है नहीं, बट एक्चुअली क्या होता
है, मैं हर किसी को खुश करूंगा तो एवरेज बन जाऊंगा ना मैं। I need to think about, you need to think about your own company, what's good for your own company. You don't owe explanation to every guy, and you surely don't owe convincing to every guy. You just can't convince every guy. Every guy thinks differently. तो क्यों तुझे कन्विंस करना है हर किसी को? नहीं हो रहे कन्विंस
हर किसी को नहीं, बट होती रहती है ना। जैसे मान लेते क्वार्टर में बैठे इन्वेस्टर्स के साथ तो पूरा डिस्कशन होगा, तो इफ दे गेट लाइक यू हैव दिस थिंग ना कि यू हैव टू शेयर क्या चाहिए, लाइक ऑप्शंस है फॉर दिस, दीस आर न्यू
और पैसा
डेवलपमेंट।
डालने वाले हैं क्या?
ऑब्वियसली लाइक कैन इन्वेस्ट मोर मनी।
देखो, अगर कोई और पैसा डालने वाला है सिग्निफिकेंटली, तब तो वर्थ है टाइम स्पेंड करना, वरना एक कान से सुन दूसरे कान से निकाल, बिकॉज यू कांट कन्विंस एवरीबडी and you have to think what is best for company, not what is best for every investor, especially if that investor is trying to be too selfish. But if somebody is going to invest money, etc., and it is important and you need to have the conversation, देन फिगर आउट कि कैसे उसका डर बेसिकली सॉल्व करें।
नहीं, आपके जैसे अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्टर्स थे जो भी थे, तो उनमें आपने कैसे डिसाइड किया कि अच्छा जो भी लीड इन्वेस्टर हुए, दे वुड बी लाइक यू वुड बी डिस्कसिंग इट विद देम, बट सभी इन्वेस्टर अपने सोच समझ के लिए होंगे ना कि दीज गाइज आर एडिंग मोर वैल्यू अदर देन जस्ट द मनी, क्योंकि पैसा लगाने के लिए तो और भी लोग हैं, राइट? तो
यार यार देखो यार, मेरा तो ये मानना है कि इन्वेस्टर जो है ना वो आप पे भरोसा कर रहा है, आप घोड़ा हो, आपको तेज भागना है। तो मैं वो वाला फाउंडर नहीं हूं जो इन्वेस्टर से वैल्यू ऐड चाहता है।
ओके,
तो मैं नहीं हूँ वो वाला फाउंडर। मैं वो वाला फाउंडर हूँ जो कहता हूँ कि भाई आपने मुझे पैसे दिए, अब मुझे भागने दो। आप उंगली मत
ओके,
करो बार बार कि ये करो वो करो,
एग्जैक्टली,
मुझे पसंद
एग्जैक्टली।
नहीं। So I don't like the investors who tell me what to do, who guide me, or who value add me. I don't want any value add. मेरे पास खुद का ही बहुत ज्ञान है, मैं वही रख लूं। बहुत ज्ञान है हमारे पास। और नहीं चाहिए। मैं कर लूं अपना काम, वही बहुत है। तो anyway doing a business is tough in India. तो I don't appreciate ज्ञान from investors, especially the unsolicited ज्ञान. And thankfully I have always got very good investors who have never given me ज्ञान and who have respected that boundary कि यहाँ आपका ज्ञान खत्म होता है और मेरा एग्जीक्यूशन शुरू होता है। आपने बात रखी है, मैं बात रखी है। एनीवे देखो, अगर किसी इन्वेस्टर को लग रहा है ना कि वो को ज्ञान देके कंपनी चला देगा, तो उससे बोल भाई तू चला ले।
वही।
तुझे तुझे तवशा है, तू चला ले। और अगर तूने भरोसा किया है कि मैं चला सकता हूँ तो चलान दे। फिर क्या कर रहा है बीच बीच में? तो यार तो यार अब लेकिन तो मतलब बट एवरी इन्वेस्टर, एवरी फाउंडर इज ऑन हिज ओन। तो यार आई बिलोंग टू दैट कैंप। सो आई डोंट वांट, आई वांट बेसिकली इंडिपेंडेंस। अदरवाइज आई वाज अ गुड एम्प्लॉय एनीवे। मुझे गाइडेंस चाहिए था तो मैं अच्छा एम्प्लॉय था ना, अच्छा पैसा भी कमा रहा था, सैलरी भी अच्छी थी। मैं क्यों रिस्क लेता? मैंने रिस्क लिया इसलिए बिकॉज मुझे ज्ञान नहीं चाहिए औरों का।
नहीं, स्पेशली इन आवर केस, लाइक हमारे सेक्टर के बारे में there's no other company that is doing this. तो ज्यादा इन्वेस्टर्स भी नहीं है, स्टार्टअप्स भी नहीं है that have actually invested or worked in this space. तो काफी बार तो वो ज्ञान आएगा ही नहीं, कभी यूज में ही नहीं आएगा unless and until like it is some ancillary thing. तो
And it is also, sometimes it is also about giving respect. So it has happened with us that many people have basically told us कि तुम्हें ऐसा करना चाहिए, ऐसा करना चाहिए. For example, people used to tell us कि आप सिटी जल्दी expand करो, and we knew it is not good for our business. लेकिन हमने respect में सुन लिया. तो मतलब I am being very cocky in front of you in terms of giving responses, but the truth is that in real life I am not. So if an investor says something to me, my typical response is to listen to it very respectfully and not fight with him then. But I also don't do what they ask me to do. So मेरा थोड़ा असहयोग आंदोलन वाला पर्सनैलिटी है कि मैं लड़ूंगा नहीं आपसे, पर मैं करूंगा भी नहीं। मैं करूंगा अपने मन का ही, पर मैं आपको रेस्पेक्ट दूंगा। तो अब तुझे अपनी पर्सनैलिटी देखनी है कि तुझे देना है, कि तुझे आर्ग्यू करना है, कि तुझे कन्विंस करना है, वो तो अपनी पर्सनैलिटी देख ले। बट मेरा
वो भी इन्वेस्टर टू इन्वेस्टर डिपेंड करता है ना, लाइक डिपेंड्स के लाइक किससे कन्विंस करना है, किसको कन्विंस करना आगे के लिए, और किसको।
My one line answer to your question is do what is best for your company, not what investors are saying, because that is anyway good for them also. What is best for the company in the long term is good for them also. So do what is best for company. Don't do things which investors want you to do.
Thanks a lot, Amit.
Anything else,
Great.
guys?
Thanks, Amit. Any other questions? We'll wait.
Amit, this is Surajit. Hi. In one sessions, I have never learned so many things at once, and also I have hardly met somebody who speaks so much from the heart. If I see my journey and when I heard from you, it is quite similar. Neither I have any business background, nothing, was doing a salary. Only difference is that I am not from a premium college like yours, and I am not yet successful as you. So hopefully we'll try. By the way, at Snehix, we are a consumer tech company, and we are trying to bring a paper tablet first time in India, and we are building a very unique software for education. That way, we also become a tech to make school paperless and something like that. So I am convinced that this idea will flow, and I am trying. जो आपने बोला वही मैं कर रहा हूँ. So, but one thing I have seen that when I go to investors, आधा तो ऐसे ही भगा देता है कि बोलता है तू हार्डवेयर बनाएगा तेरे से होगा नहीं. Hardware is not a thing in India. So it doesn't deter me, rather it raise my confidence more. But इसके बारे में आपको कुछ बोलना है? You have anything to say with companies who are trying to build some product from India? I mean, which include a hardware also.
If I were you, what I would do is I will basically go through all the past records as to who have invested in hardware, including the manufacturers or the service providers, the brick and mortar, traditionally brick and mortar companies, any accelerator programs, any offshoot. For example, Samsung has a Samsung investment division in India. They also invest. तो अगर मैं आपकी जगह होता तो ना मैं ये देखता कि इस सेक्टर में किया किसने इन्वेस्ट है, हार्डवेयर में इन्वेस्ट किसने किया है, उनके पास जाता पहले में, क्योंकि बहुत बार हो सकता है कि दैट यू आर बाकिंग अप द रॉन्ग ट्री, वो लोग करते ही नहीं है. तो मैं अगर होता तो मैं बेसिकली स्ट्रेटजी के अंदर यही चेंज करता, एंड आई वुड ट्राई टू बेसिकली गेट सम इन्वेस्टमेंट, चाहे 100 रुपए मिल जाए, पर किसी ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर कंपनी से जो सिमिलर सेक्टर में है या उस इकोसिस्टम में है, उससे लेने की कोशिश करता, ताकि उससे एक एक्सटर्नल वैलिडेशन भी हो जाए, चाहे वो अमाउंट बहुत कम हो, पर एक्सटर्नल वैलिडेशन हो जाए, ताकि आप जाके बोल सको कि साहब देखो मेरी पार्टनरशिप हो गई है, उन्होंने इन्वेस्ट भी कर दिया है हमारे में. मैं ये करने की कोशिश करता. इज देयर अ इजी आंसर फॉर इट? नो, इट इज नॉट, and that's why startup, because it's tough. But I would look at the past data a little bit much more. There's also a very good website called Traction, TRACXN, and which is also a listed company now, and you can even buy some package if they, and for other people also in this call, TRACXN Traction, and they have everything. They have detail of every deal that has happened in the entire world ever. So you can filter by country, by sector, by investors, they'll all deals, everything they will give you. So perhaps उससे ना set of right investors पता लगाना भी जरूरी है.
Actually, आपने जो बोला that Samsung and this few companies do some this kind of investment, तो आपका तो सेशन पहले नहीं सुना था, तो उन लोगों को मेल लिखा था, इतना बड़ा मेल लिखा और अटैचमेंट कर दिया, शायद वही गलत हो गया. Maybe I'll write it down now with the points I have noted, with the 5 points.
आप बस देखिए कि मोबाइल में ना 2 बार ना करना पड़े आपको, एक ही बार में आ जाए, बहुत ही छोटा.
Got it.
और टीजर टाइप का है कि मतलब ये कुछ कर रहा हूँ, ढंग से समझाओगे भी नहीं तो सही है, उनको देखना है, उनको फीलिंग आनी चाहिए कुछ बड़ा मार्केट साइज है, कुछ खतरनाक कर रहा है, पूछते हैं क्या कर रहा है.
ठीक, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू.
Great. I think we're about to run out of time for questions as well. So, as a final note, I think great learnings overall from the session. I think it's been great having you, Amit. Thanks for taking out the time and thanks for interacting with the founders. If you have any sort of closing thoughts, final words for our founders that are building something here at Conquest, would be great if you could share those.
No, it has been amazing. Some very, very good set of questions that basically founders have asked. Very happy to see different sorts of ideas that people are pursuing. So I have a huge respect for for this program now. My session would be only those things, just to iterate what I said. Don't ask opinion about your startup from many people. That would be my main suggestion. Search for positive energy, positive people around you, because that's what we need in this journey. Your spouse, your partner should be in support of you. If not, convince them, because they are an extremely important part of supporting you, especially in your bad times when you're feeling down. Second is, in terms of investors, as I said, some practical things in terms of writing short, respecting every person in the ladder and making a question compendium, finding answers to that, and most of all, trying to invoke a feeling of greed. देखो वही है. If you are able to invoke that feeling of greed, तो हो जाएगा काम, वरना और दिखाओ चलता रहेगा. कहाँ से और दिखाएं जब पैसे ही नहीं है तो. So that would be my main thing. I know that these times are tough. The bootstrapping times are tough. But I must tell you that running a successful startup is the best job in the world. So I think I tap dance to work every day. I love my job. So the price is worth it. And hence you need to basically swallow this bitter pill for a year or two. And if customers love your idea, there is no reason why you will not make big.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Amit, for taking out the time, and thanks for being here. I'm sure our founders have taken away a lot from this session. We'll all, we look forward to maybe hoping to see you in person as well at the demo day, and maybe having a chance to interact with these folks in person. But yeah, I think that's all the time that we have for today. So thanks a lot once again, Amit, from the entire Conquest team and the founders, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
To BITS planning guys, please share the recording. इससे अच्छा सेशन मैं कभी अटेंड नहीं किया था. ये एक मैसेज भेज देना व्हाट्सएप में कि get the link from here. मैं अपने बेटे को सुनाना चाहता हूँ.
Sure. 100%. I'll be happy to share that.
Please do that.
Yeah.
It's been a
All right,
total
great.
delight. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. Yeah.